El oscuro pasado de Donald Trump finalmente está saliendo a la luz. Y también se está revelando cuáles son las razones principales por las que Donald Trump está contento con el cierre de gobierno. Y una de estas razones claves por las que Donald Trump deseaba con ansias de que se cierre el gobierno es que al cerrarse el gobierno se impide que se hagan públicos los archivos de Jeffrey Epstein, y esto alivia a Donald Trump ya que él sabe que estaba evidentemente embarrado de estos archivos. Te explico. Al cerrarse el gobierno no se pudo dar la petición de descargo de Thomas Massie y de Ro Khanna, que estaban pidiendo que las personas firmen dentro del gobierno para que se hagan públicos. ¿Y qué crees? Al cerrarse el gobierno se cancela esto y no se hacen públicos. Esta es una de las razones por las que Donald Trump obligó a Mike Johnson a decirle a las personas que trabajan en Washington DC que durante toda la próxima semana van a tener vacaciones pagadas. Pues bien, ha salido a la luz un video del propio Departamento de Justicia, fechado 8 de julio del 2019. Esto fue cuando Jeffrey Epstein fue encarcelado y acusado de Quiero que veas lo que dijo el régimen de Donald Trump en ese momento. Su principal fiscal en Nueva York habló sobre una orden de allanamiento y también habló sobre qué cosas encontraron ahí. Así que yo quiero que veas este clip.
Contemporaneous with the arrest of Epstein at Teterboro Airport, agents executed a search warrant on his mansion in New York City and recovered and seized, and that was a search pursuant to a valid warrant. Agents seized evidence including nude photographs of what appeared to be underage girls.
En un momento continuamos hablando de esto. Ahora quiero que veas qué pasó con Mike Johnson cuando le preguntaron en CBS Morning. Esa es la razón por la que todos ustedes se van a ir de vacaciones pagadas por una semana, para no tener que juramentar a la congresista electa del distrito número 7 de Arizona, Adalita Grijalva, porque ella terminaría firmando la petición de liberación de los archivos. Y Mike Johnson dice, ¿sabes? No te preocupes que regresamos la siguiente semana y ahí lo vamos a resolver. ¿Pero qué crees? Siguen extendiendo indefinidamente sus vacaciones. De hecho, esta semana tampoco van a trabajar. Y probablemente tampoco vayan a trabajar la próxima semana. Yo creo que el plan de Donald Trump y de Mike Johnson es alargarlo lo más que puedan. No se sorprendan que pase un mes y no se active todavía. Yo creo que en su propia visión les iría mejor si la cámara no vuelve a funcionar. Escucha lo que tiene que decir Mike Johnson. Presta atención, por favor.
Representative Grijalva, who won a special election last week in Arizona, she's yet to be sworn in. I know you're not in session, but you've sworn in Republicans out of session. Why not her? Does it have anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein?
Well, the House is not on the floor doing business this week, but we will do it immediately early next week as soon as everyone returns to town. We have to have everybody here.
Yo siempre he escuchado que sea cual sea tu talento, trates de explotarlo. Así que para mí es increíble este artista o este colectivo de artistas que sigue colocando la estatua de Donald Trump con Jeffrey Epstein. Y la colocan justo enfrente del Capitolio, del edificio del Capitolio. Yo creo que eso es brillante y muy valiente. Miren el clip, por favor. Y esto es lo que dijo el senador demócrata de Massachusetts. Miren, por favor.
The Trump administration is lying about this shutdown. Trump Republicans and their billionaire buddies are hiding the jobs report. They're hiding the Epstein files. They don't want the American people to know the truth about skyrocketing costs, cuts, chaos, and corruption. Release the jobs report, release the Epstein files, and come to the negotiating table.
Ahora, quiero mostrarte una parte un poco más larga de esta conferencia de prensa. Quiero que veas todo, porque mientras Donald Trump llama que esto es un engaño ahora mismo, el Cash Patel, Pam Bondi y todos los republicanos MAGA en este momento, después de decir que querían liberar los archivos de Jeffrey Epstein, ahora que todos sabemos que el nombre de Donald Trump está regado por todos esos archivos, algo que muchos ya sospechábamos pero ahora está confirmado, Donald Trump desplegó a miles de trabajadores del FBI para que se encarguen de borrar cualquier rastro de su nombre o algo que tenga que ver con él. Quiero mostrarte dónde podría estar el nombre de Donald Trump, pero te aseguro que no lo sabemos porque aún no lo han publicado. Pero quiero compartir contigo la posibilidad de lo que podemos ver en estos archivos a futuro. Este video ha resurgido y es una conferencia de prensa de los principales fiscales federales y el FBI de Donald Trump. Miren, por favor.
Today, we announce the unsealing of sex trafficking charges against Jeffrey Epstein. The charges allege that Epstein sexually abused young girls by enticing them to engage in sex acts for money. Epstein is charged in a two-count indictment. First, conspiracy to commit sex trafficking, and second, the substantive crime of sex trafficking of underage girls. Beginning in at least 2002 and continuing until 2005, Epstein is alleged to have abused dozens of victims by causing them to engage in sex acts with him at his mansion in New York and at his estate in Palm Beach, Florida. The victims, all underage girls at the time of the alleged conduct, were given hundreds of dollars in cash after each encounter, either by Epstein or by one of Epstein's employees. The underage girls were initially recruited to provide Epstein with massages, and often did so nude or partially nude. These massages became increasingly sexual in nature and would typically include one or more sex acts as specified in the indictment. As alleged, Epstein also paid certain victims to recruit additional girls to be similarly abused. This allowed Epstein to create an ever-expanding web of new victims. This conduct, as alleged, went on for years, and it involved dozens of young girls, some as young as 14 years old at the time that they were allegedly abused. As alleged, Epstein was well aware that many of his victims were minors, and not surprisingly, many of the underage girls that Epstein allegedly victimized were particularly vulnerable to exploitation. The alleged behavior shocks the conscience, and while the charged conduct is from a number of years ago, it is still profoundly important to the many alleged victims, now young women. They deserve their day in court, and we are proud to be standing up for them by bringing this indictment. Combating sex trafficking and exploitation of children is a priority for this office and for the Department of Justice, as the sexual abuse of a minor can have devastating effects on victims, often lasting for years. That is why my office will not rest until perpetrators of these types of crimes are brought to justice. Victims' voices, including the many voices of Epstein's alleged victims, must be heard. To that end, I want to say to anyone who is watching this or hearing about our prosecution, if you believe you are a victim of this man, Jeffrey Epstein, or you have evidence or information relating to the conduct alleged in the indictment unsealed today, we want to hear from you. Please call 1-800-CALL-FBI. The charges unsealed today reflect the hard work not only of this office, but by our law enforcement partners at the Federal Bureau of Investigation. To my left is Bill Sweeney, the Assistant Director in charge of the New York Field Office of the FBI, and I wish to thank him and his team for their dedication and professionalism in seeing this investigation through. I also want to thank the New York City Police Department, represented here today by Chief Jason Wilcox, and Customs and Border Patrol for their assistance in this investigation. We will continue to devote significant resources to investigating these crimes and to protecting young people from sexual predators. And now I would like to invite Bill Sweeney up to the podium.
Preserving the innocence of children is one of the most important responsibilities we carry as adults. Purposely failing children in any way is not an option. And yet there are some in society who have chosen to blatantly disregard this responsibility, using whatever means they have at their disposal to lure children into a life which they should never have been exposed. As we allege today, Jeffrey Epstein is one of those people. At approximately 5:30 p.m. on Saturday evening, we arrested him at Teterboro Airport without incident. Epstein has been charged with 1 count each of sex trafficking and sex trafficking conspiracy. For at least a 4-year period covering the entirety of 2002 through 2005, he is alleged to have sexually exploited and abused dozens of minor girls at his homes in New York City and in Palm Beach, Florida. The girls were recruited in a variety of ways, usually by employees of Epstein and sometimes by fellow victims. The victims typically received hundreds of dollars in cash. The estimated dozens of victims were as young as 14 years old at time of recruitment. Children who provided Epstein massages while they were nude or partially nude. Children who were asked to engage in direct and indirect sex acts for money. Children who were enticed to do all these things at the hands of a man more than or nearly 3 times their age. Those who have been victimized by child sexual predators are frequently haunted by memories of these crimes well into their adulthood, often for the rest of their lives. They bear the burden of someone else's criminal behavior. Too often, adults in our society have turned a blind eye to this type of criminal behavior alleged here. We have seen the excuses, the ignorance of many who didn't even bother to understand that this behavior is a persistent scourge against our society's vulnerable youth, and the willful blindness as to who the real villains are in this type of outrageous crime. The villains are the adult perpetrators, not the children. To the victims who may be listening or get word of today's charges, the team standing here before you represents FBI special agents, NYPD detectives, analysts, victim specialists, prosecutors, who make it their mission to listen to every individual who's been exploited and to advocate for the most vulnerable among us. We are parents, we are community members, we are human beings. But as an FBI special agent and the head of this office, I have the privilege to represent and stand among many who make it our mission to put predators behind bars where they belong, regardless of the predator's power, wealth, or perceived connections. Today, I'm asking everyone to take a good look at this man. If you have been victimized in any way, or if you are somebody who has any additional information about his alleged illegal behavior, we want to hear from you. Whatever age you are now, whatever age you were then, no matter where or when the incident or incidents took place. The number to call is 1-800-CALL-FBI. You will then be driven to the top of the list, and the Jeffrey Epstein matter is number 1 on the major case list in the country when you call that 1-800-CALL-FBI number. Your bravery might just empower others to speak out about crimes committed against them. It's important to remember there never was, nor will there be, an excuse for this kind of behavior. We know that reliving these events can be brutal. We are here to work side by side with you as you go through this process. You should know that in the eyes of the FBI, you come first. Many thanks, as always, to our partners from the Southern District. Our partnership with the NYPD on this case and so many others has been phenomenal. Thank you also to the professionals at CBP and to the Port Authority Police Department who helped us with the arrest on Saturday evening. Last but not least, I want to extend my thanks to the NYPD Child Exploitation and Human Trafficking Task Force. The public should know that to be on this task force, you must volunteer. The work is agonizing, but it is one of the most noble missions our agencies can engage in, and we engage in it together. Thank you.
Jeffrey Epstein entered into a non-prosecution agreement with the Southern District of Florida. That agreement only binds, by its terms, only binds the Southern District of Florida. The Southern District of New York is not bound by that agreement and is not a signatory to that agreement. I will say that I have confidence that the Public Corruption Unit can ably handle this investigation prosecution as it has so many other matters. I will again urge you not to read into the unit assignment anything one way or another. I'm not going into any dealings with Maine Justice, nor am I going to go into any aspects of how our investigation originated. I will say that we were assisted from some excellent investigative journalism. Contemporaneous with the arrest of Epstein at Teterboro Airport, agents executed a search warrant on his mansion in New York City and recovered and seized, and that was a search pursuant to a valid warrant. Agents seized evidence, including nude photographs of what appeared to be underage girls. It's extremely significant because of the number of years and the number of victims. There are dozens of victims as alleged in the indictment in New York and dozens in Florida, and it maintained itself over several years. So this is very significant. Our office has handled this year, in fact, many significant sex trafficking cases, and this is one of them. As alleged in the indictment, these individuals, the underage girls were sometimes recruited by current victims, and the current victims were given cash payments if they could bring other underage girls to be similarly abused. And that's how he continued to expand the number of new victims that he had, and that's how it was able to maintain itself over several years.
He was your neighbor for 10 years. How well did you know him?
All right. So we are in number 11 and he lives in number 9.
Right.
So we renovate, we buy our house, and our house is pigeons and mice.
Right.
Okay. It was derelict.
Right.
So we rebuild our house. We move in 2005. Okay. Jeffrey Epstein is arrested in like 08, I think, or something like that.
Right.
So knock on the door. His assistant on like a Saturday says, Mr. Epstein, your neighbor would like to invite you over for coffee. So my wife and I go next door. We walk the 7 steps,
Yes.
right, to the next house for coffee. We share a wall.
Right.
Right. So it's in New York City. So he invites us in. We have coffee in this, and he says, do you want a tour? We said, great. He's
Interesting.
got a really big house.
Every room you went into?
He's got, well, I'll tell you. So his house is like super big, really wide. And, so he gives me a tour in the living room, big living room. And then across from it is double doors. I assume it's the dining room.
Yeah.
And he opens the doors and there's a massage table in the middle of the room.
Ooh.
And candles all around and stuff. So I ask very insightful, cutting questions. I say to him, massage table in the middle of your house? How often do you have a massage? And he says, every day. And then he gets weirdly close to me.
Ooh.
And he says, and the right kind of massage.
Ooh.
Now my wife is standing here. So she looks at me and I look at her and we say, I'm sorry. We have to go. And we left. And in the 6 or 8 steps it takes to get from his house to my house, my wife and I decided that I will never be in the room with that disgusting person ever again.
Really?
So I was never in the room with him socially, for business, or even philanthropy. If that guy was there, I wasn't going because he's gross.
Y bueno amigos, llegamos al final del video. Espero que te haya gustado, que te haya servido y que lo hayas entendido. Si fue así, te agradecería de todo corazón que me lo hagas saber en los comentarios. Además, si este video te gustó, te va a encantar suscribirte al canal, ya que subo videos así todos los días. Mi nombre es José Alvarado, soy economista y estoy comprometido con informarte diariamente. Nos vemos en el siguiente video. Adiós.